Is the Redondo Beach logo refresh project, and this is the actual keynote that I gave at the City Council meeting on October 17th, 2023. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Jordis Small. My business is Stella and Design. I'm a South Bay native, and I'm also a brand designer. Now my ethos is creativity rooted in practicality. By that I mean I'm a lifelong creative who's also painfully practical. I love things that work. Now, before we jump in, I want to do a little bit of education. First thing I want you to keep in mind is that design needs to function, art doesn't. Taste is subjective and functionality is fact. If we ran this project off taste alone, we'd be doing this forever and ever. Now, what exactly is brand? I love to use the analogy of brand as a human. So if you were to start designing a human, you'd probably start with their brain, how they think, how they talk, their soul, kind of really like what makes that person tick. Then you'd move on to their face, which would be their logo. And then their brand identity is how they style themselves and how they dress. Now, a face by itself is boring, right? Imagine if you could see my face, just this part of my face, no glasses, no makeup, no hair, nothing. You'd be able to say, hey, that's Jordis, but you don't know anything else about me. Nothing. So let's do a quick test. Here I have two attorney's cards. Who would you trust more to keep you out of jail? You're probably going to go with the one on the right? But did you notice each of these had the same logo, same name, but you knew which was more trustworthy? That is the brand. Now, what is a logo? And a logo is a simple mark that lasts for years, decades, even centuries in some cases. It's an identifying mark of your tribe. So logos actually go back to caveman times, but for the sake of this, we'll just go back to the Middle Ages. And there were coats of arms, and these were used to identify, right? It gives people something to rally behind. A logo's identification, the brand is communication. The logo does not need to tell you a story. Its sole job is to identify. So now, what makes a good logo? And I like to focus on 4 factors: visibility, memorability, appropriateness, and it must work as a system. So when I say visibility, I'm mostly talking about scalability, which means how does it look good? Big, how does it look small? And with memorability, I want it so memorable that a 5-year-old can draw it. If we look at National Geographic's logo, they have a yellow rectangle, and guess what? A 5-year-old can draw it. Here's a snapshot of some of my favorite logos: Nike, Apple, Target. You'll notice these are all simple shapes, and that is because simplicity equals memorability. People can remember it. Now, a good logo must work as a system. And now we've all held this cup of coffee in our hands, I'm sure, and seen this siren mark on the side of our cup. Very rarely will you see this siren mark on the side of a Starbucks location. They usually use this word mark variation. That's their logo system. So here I have 4 shapes. You should have a logo variation that fills up each of these 4 shapes. Now we can get to the process. So usually through my creative process, I like to say that I drive the car and the clients tell me where to go. They don't know their way at first, but through a series of workshops, we find our way together. This was a very unique process. So in place of a client, we had a volunteer committee of 5 different people that represented each of the 5 districts. I drove the bus, they told me where to go, and I just made sure we stayed on the road. So here's my wonderful committee. And it wasn't just the 6 of us. We actually asked for community input along the way. We did 4 interviews with subjects that represented the diverse city. We did an initial survey open to the community, a survey on 3 different logo variations, and a final survey on adapting the new logo. So think of this as us asking for directions, right? So now phases, because of course I'm painfully practical. So we start with the discovery phase, and this is actually the most important phase throughout the project. This is where I ask, why do this? Let's review the problem that needs to be solved first. And the committee came up with to modernize the city, set the tone for a city as a seaside community, but stand out amongst other local beach cities. I asked, what will make this project a success? What's the goal? It was to show the community that we're a city moving forward with willingness to change, keep up with the times, and showcase that we're a prideful city that cares. So we workshopped on Zoom, and we workshopped some more. And what we learned from the survey we conducted was that simple and memorable was most important when it came to a logo, most connected with active, health-conscious brands, and the beach lifestyle was very important. Now, I did 4 different 30-minute interviews with people that represented the city. I chatted with one transplant family with small children, one 30-plus year transplant family with grown children, a business owner in Redondo, and one born and raised local. Now, when I asked all 4 of the subjects what Redondo means to them, they all said home. They said the vibe of the city was special. It's got a small town beachy feel, even though it's not a small city, and that the history was part of the charm. It was clear Redondo's unique. It's beachy yet distinguished, quaint but diverse. Now, we did this practice too, where we put together a list of 15 to 20 words of what you think of when you think of Redondo Beach. You can see we've got water, dolphins, sun, homes, boats, marinas, lots of fun stuff. Now I looked at the current logo, and I wanted to audit this and see what was going on. We checked it for visibility and realized that it's not simple or scalable, meaning when it's small, it's hard to see. That word beach has such a wide tracking between it that it's hard to read. And the logo was not memorable. In fact, a lot of people said I didn't know what the city logo was, and a lot of people thought it was these street signs. And the design relies too much on color. Here you see it in a 2-color application, and it's no longer reading like the same logo. And it gets even worse when it's a 1-color. In fact, a lot of people just saw geometric shapes. Some people saw the shape of a rifle, but almost nobody saw a pier. Now, it's appropriate, meaning the concept of this logo makes sense for our city. 5 gold stars. Where it lacks in appropriateness is this color palette. These colors are not reflective of the city. In fact, the primary color palette is really associated with children and education. And these colors, red and yellow together, are actually known as the hungry colors. And if you accent that with blue, you get a lot of these fast food restaurants. I challenge you next time you're on the highway to take note of that. Now, it's weak when working as a logo system. Here you see it in a circle application. And here I tried to drop it in all of those shapes. You see our circle really doesn't have any copy around it, and our horizontal one is pretty much missing altogether. Now, it's unbalanced, meaning here I've balanced it, using my eye with the center going through the A. However, if I use the computer to balance this logo, it does this, leaving some spaces there. Now, that's going to leave it open to misuse when, say, someone from the Parks Department wants to order Frisbees, they try to center it, all of a sudden it's off. I did an audit of the city of use, and I found 7 different marks kind of floating around and 4 different variations of a word mark. And that's a lot. So now we know what's going on. We put together a checklist for the project of what we needed to obtain. We started with doing an audit of other cities that have gone through the rebrand process. We looked at other coastal communities up and down our coastline. We did a mood board for the project, 2 proposed different brand directions, and logo style references. Everyone on my logo committee really liked this light and beachy look. So I said, okay, now I feel like we can move on to design, right? So here you have, I start all my designs with hand sketches with pencil and paper. And then I move it to the computer where I like to make a mess. And from this mess, you can see on the left, I pulled out all the designs that were working. And on the right are all the designs that the logo committee really connected with. So we narrowed the playing field. We landed with these 4. Now, before you go questioning anything, this was Oslo. I thought they did a wonderful job of taking their formal city seal and modernizing it into this cool logo that works today. I thought, I'm going to do that for Redondo. I think our city seal should be the logo. I tried it and it didn't work. On top of that, no one on the logo committee felt connected to this. They said the train was a cool part of our history, but it doesn't make sense for today. And honestly, the design was really weak too. Now, some people thought, what about doing these cool shapes that are on the pier? This is the Redondo Tourism Board's logo as well. Now, those were added in 1995, and they could be gone by 2055. I don't know. They could be gone in the next 5 years. Then we're going to end up right back here with people saying, I don't really get it, right? We don't want that. Now, Hermosa Beach. They've got this cool little HB logo. In fact, Huntington Beach has a capital H and a B. And these work because you're putting a flat post up against a flat post. But what happens when you put the bowl of an R up against a flat post of a B? It doesn't read the same. We tried it anyways, But this is where we go back to that discovery and realize that we wanted to stand out amongst other local beach cities. Who else has a harbor? We've got LA Harbor full of tanker ships and cranes, and we've got Marina del Rey full of yachts. But we have this quaint harbor that's full of sailboats. And this is the quintessential beach day in Redondo. You've got waves rolling in, sailboats on the water. This is Redondo. And it was no wonder when I started looking around at our city signage that most of these marks are boats. So I felt really good that there was actually a sailboat in each of these concepts. Then we started pairing the logo with the word mark portion, and that is the type portion of the logo. And we narrowed it to 4. We started applying these in use cases, maybe a t-shirt, a keychain, a hat. And I was feeling good for this light beachy look, but then I was like, we also need to make sure that we're professional and we can be on a public parking sign, street signs, maybe even a police officer's patch, right? And I started to feel good that these marks could kind of work in those 2 different environments. Now here we had 6 different variations of type going around, and we decided to narrow it down to 3. So we narrowed it down to 3 of our favorite marks, 3 favorite typefaces, and 3 type layouts. And we put these to a communal vote. And you can see here, they all won by 43% or more. So here you have a mark and a word mark. And I said, I'm feeling pretty good about this, right? But I wanted to perfect it. I am a perfectionist. So I went through and did varied line weights on all these different marks and different curvatures of the sail. And I also reached out to the design community for some input. I've got a great network of designers. So them coupled with the logo committee, 4 was the fan favorite. And now here's the word mark portion. I'm not a typographist, so I actually sent it out to a friend to help me with the kerning and the tracking of all these letters to make sure it passed standards. So here you have our mark and our word mark. I started applying this. I laid it over a photo, dropped in some potential colors, built out a logo system, tested the logo system, tested it against use cases. Here's the Public Works Department patch, seeing improvement. I tested it in a 1 color and see a big improvement here, that 1 color on a patch. And I tried it on city street signs, police officers' patches. Now this was something that I thought was really cool. This is that same logo just being used in different colors with a different descriptor, meaning the police department could have a signature color, fire, parks, etc. Now this is a great way to have the same logo for uniformity, but differentiate amongst departments. This could come in handy in, say, the website, for instance. This is just a mock of what the new website could be. And it's currently very big. So if we were to break it up, you could have a subtle logo change on the police and fire portions of the website, and that will just help people navigate through a little bit better. So now for that lighter beachy look, right? I did an alternate version, and this just has kind of like that hand-drawn feel to it. Feels a little bit lighter, a little bit more vintage. Dropped in some color, played around with the colors. Did a play on the city seal with that roping around it and the same layout. Dropped color into those. And now we'd move forward to expansion. And this is the phase where I kind of pause the brakes a little bit, and we're still waiting on, the final approval before moving forward. But during this phase is where we'll finalize things and we'll actually start to build this out. And we will finalize things like color, fonts. Here's the proposed color fonts in that lighter beachy look. We'll build out business cards, city swag, all that fun stuff. And now for the phase 4 of the project is going to be the document phase, and that's where I'll politely excuse the committee and I will put together a brand guide, which is a document that will just keep everything intact that we've done and make sure the logo is being used properly. So why does consistency in a brand or a city's brand matter? Here's McDonald's, and we've all, been on the road and needed to stop for an Egg McMuffin, right? It's not the healthiest, but I get it. But if McDonald's looked like this, are you going to still feel like you could go there and get an Egg McMuffin? You don't know, right? Consistency builds trust. Another example, heaven forbid you're unfamiliar with Redondo, it's late night, you're driving, you're getting pulled over, you're like, oh God, I don't know about you guys. Maybe I've watched too much Dateline and Law & Order, but it would make me at least feel a little bit better if I could see the marks on the city street sign matching the marks on the police officer's patch or the side of his car. That's going to help build that connection that this is someone with Redondo Beach. Currently, we have this going on. There's lots of different marks across different departments. Imagine if they all looked the same. There's some cohesion and a lot of weight there, right? Now, another example, here's the Parks Department. I've dropped in that proposed logo. Now, if I drop my kid off at Skate Dogs Camp, I would like to see a camp counselor wearing that same shirt with that same mark, right? And I want to look for this Easy Up that has the city logo on it, and that's going to help build that connection and the trust. Rolling out a new logo is expensive. There's signage, uniforms, website, print, all that good stuff. But it's necessary. And it doesn't need to happen overnight. This happens over time as things get updated. Nobody does this overnight. But trust is a must when it comes to a city and its departments. This is huge. So what's so great about this new logo, right? Timelessness. I want to talk about how this simple shape and concept lends itself to the history of Redondo, present day, and the future. The silhouette of the sail will not go out of date, even if we don't know what sailboats look like in the future. So here's Apple. They got it wrong in 1976, but by 1977, if you notice, that same logo is their logo today. Now, if you take our city seal logo and we go back to 1892, when Redondo looked like this, and someone's like, our seal logo is pretty cool, but I just don't know how it's going to work on a website, right? They might have accused you of being a witch. But if we go back not even that far, 1960, back when you could swim in the horseshoe and phones looked like this, and again, you're like, our city seal, I just don't know how is that going to relate in a mobile app one day? It's not, right? So thinking of the future today, there's this thing called VR that I don't know a whole lot about, but I can tell you the odds of our logo that we create here today having to work in 3D are pretty high. And guess what? This simple shape works in 3 dimensions. Here's an example of Bell phone systems. The concept of their logos never changed, but that logo that they had in 1969 sits on the same playing field as the logo I'm presenting here today. That just speaks to the timelessness of this. Now, simplicity. We touched base on this a little bit. Here's a snapshot of Shell, who's had to simplify over decades. Someone who got it right, Red Cross of America. Their logo in 1881 is still their same logo. Worked on a poster then, works on a helicopter now. And can a 5-year-old draw the Red Cross logo? Yes. So here's a quick eye test for you. I challenge you to just take a step back, squint, let your eyes get a little bit lazy, and just notice out of these 2 marks, which one still reads correctly. Which leads me to this. Why do we have this going on? Why do we have all these different marks being used? They're all using different things, huh? And that's because this is broken. This is not working. The logo's not converting to one color like it should. It's not visible, memorable, kind of lacking there. Imagine this. Simple is versatile and adaptable. What I love about simple shapes, you can drop a photo into them, some texture. You can really use this as a design element. Whereas if it's too complex, we can't do that anymore. You might be like, gosh, it's so simple. It kind of looks like clip art. I'm going to beg to differ on that one because here's clip art. But my rebuttal is honestly, who cares if it looks like clip art if it works in all these applications? This is a sign of a strong logo. We've got police, fire, city swag. It's checking all those boxes. It's even looking good on trash cans, right? Now, scalability. It looks good big and it looks good small. Here's an example. I saw a city truck the other day that has the city seal on it. That is not legible. Nobody can make out what that is. On the right, I dropped in the new proposed logo just so we can compare. Now, it doesn't rely on color. Here we have the Parks Department that is using the colored logo printed over a blue sky. So I've dropped in the proposed logo in a 1-color application just so we can compare. Now, appropriateness, please remember we got 5 gold stars here. The concept of the sail is true to Redondo Beach and the community. It pays homage to our history while feeling relevant in 2023 and beyond. Here's my own little snapshot of our logo evolution. Now let's talk about appropriateness again. On this front, we've got that light and beachy look and the professional distinguished, which I wasn't even sure if that was possible in the beginning of doing this. Now it works as a system. I tested it. I went around town. I took some photos. I dropped this logo in to make sure it would work in all the applications needed. And I want to talk about the slogan, that more to see. I'm going to say the slogan's actually going to fall under brand identity. A slogan is changeable. Most folks don't even know what their city slogan is. It's kind of like sprinkles on top of the icing. It's not necessary. And here we have Nike. We've got just do it and think different. You do not see their taglines in their logo. It's actually going to fall under their brand identity. So again, to recap, our values, belief, mission, purpose, these things are all make up our brand strategy. And those don't change, but they can grow with time, kind of like how you gain knowledge over time. Our logo is timeless. It doesn't change, but can get a facelift from time to time. That's kind of what we're proposing here today. Now the brand identity, those beachy vibes, font, color, slogan, those things can change and evolve. And think of that as the same way we do not dress the same as we did 20 years ago, right? I know I don't. I'm pretty sure you guys don't either. Now, I want to talk about the elephant in the room. And this elephant is called Survey 4 in my book. Survey 4 was open for multiple voting and the data got extremely skewed, but I didn't want to ignore people's opinions or concerns. So if anybody has questions, I am an open book and happy to chat with you. So to recap, did we accomplish what we set out to do? Modernize the city, stand out amongst other local beach cities, show willingness to change, and that we're a prideful city, you guys. This is great. Now going back to this survey here, we've got simple and memorable, active, health-conscious brands, and that beach lifestyle. Now, this has not happened to me yet, so I thought this was so cool. Out of that list of words, we got 5. We got 5 in that simple mark. So we've got timeless, visible and scalable, simple and memorable, appropriate, works as a system, works in one color, modernizes the city, it's beachy yet distinguished, and it stands out amongst other local beach cities. So why does all this stuff matter, right? Because a good logo will increase use, consistency, visibility, and trust. And now what is that going to do? That is going to promote pride amongst our city. So no secret here, this is a dream project for me. I was born in Redondo, raised in the South Bay. This community means a lot to me. And if you can't tell, I'm extremely passionate about logos. I've made my living doing this. So if you couple the pride in my hometown with the pride in my work, I'm happy and honored to be working on this. However, I have had to take my ego out of this project and ran this project solely on community input. It is from a practical standpoint, again, creativity rooted in practicality. So if you want to know more, again, I'm an open book. Questions,